and welcome to a very special episode of the Space Update, brought to you by the Total Space Network. No green screen today, the rocket is real, our guest's real. So, absolutely fantastic being here at Spaceport Cornwall. How are you doing, Ross?
Yeah, very good. Welcome to our Story of a Satellite exhibition.
I know, fantastic being here in person, finally,
Yeah.
doing an interview on site, not over the internet or anything like that. So it's absolutely fantastic being here. Now, as you can see, we have Virgin Orbit's LauncherOne sitting nicely behind us, which we'll talk about shortly. Just to start things off, Ross, before we run into the questions and exciting exhibit you have on here today, this story of a satellite, could you give us a little background on Spaceport Cornwall itself and what it's poised to become very, very soon?
Yeah, sure. So we are here at Spaceport Cornwall, which is also Cornwall Airport, Newquay. So that's how the journey started sort of 5 or 6 years ago. So the Department of Transport set out this proposal to find a UK launch location. And at that point, we were a licensed passenger airport, as we are now. We had the business park over on the south side of the airport. And then Goon Hilly really were the ones that came to us and said, hey, this is new technology called horizontal launch. And that was our entry into like, all right, you don't need to be Cape Canaveral.
Yeah.
So that's been, a 5 or 6 year process working with Cornwall Council, who are a majority funder here. They've had made a really ambitious investment into the site, and the UK Space Agency, of course, as well, who've been extremely supportive. And that got us to about a year ago when we finally got all the funding in place. So it was democratically voted through by Cornwall Council through the cabinet. UK Space Agency put their side of the funding in as well as Virgin Orbit and Goon Hilly themselves.
Yeah.
And then here we are now, a year out to the first launch ever from first orbital launch from UK soil will happen here in Cornwall with Virgin Orbit.
Yeah, it's just absolutely incredible. I mean, just being here in front of LauncherOne is just mind-blowing. What other companies have expressed interest to launch from here at Spaceport Cornwall?
Yeah, so that's something that a lot of people ask us regarding sort of the relationship with Virgin Orbit.
Yeah.
So they have signed up exclusively with us for their European operations, but we are a multi-user spaceport. So we've got an MOU as well with Sierra Space, so the new part of Sierra Nevada Corporation for Dream Chaser.
Yeah.
So that's really, at the moment, that's more of a partnership about they've been helping us with some of the facilities that we're building on site. And actually, if these hangar doors are open, you'd see the integration facility, which is going up now.
Yeah.
So they did a sort of, at first it was a basic ConOps for Dream Chaser. If it was to come back for the International Space Station, could it land here?
Yeah.
So the first answer to that was yes, it could in an emergency situation.
Yeah.
And then that moved on to like potentially more planned missions in the future. And if they were to return here for a planned mission, what they'd expect to see here as far as like post-mission facilities.
Yeah. On the topic of the runway and the Dream Chaser land and everything, is the runway long enough? Because I know there was originally plans to make it even longer, up to I think 3,000 meters or something like that, wasn't it?
Well, it was interesting because when before we were talking to Virgin Orbit, our first partnership was with Virgin Galactic, and they had this number of 3,000 meters. That's what they thought they needed, and our runway's 2,744. So you say like we intended to extend it. I think what we did is we found out how much it would cost to extend it, and then immediately ruled that out. And then thankfully, Virgin Galactic also then came to the realization that they also don't need a 3,000 meter long runway, and it was long enough.
Hence the 747. You can land a 747 here, no problem.
Yeah, and all these things that not obviously the length of the runway, but what's the load bearing capacity of the runway? Because Cornwall Airport, Newquay doesn't receive 747s.
Yeah.
And a lot of the money that we were allocated was for like areas of like strengthening the aprons and taxiway.
Yeah.
And then, well, before G7, STS Aviation here received a load of the British Airways 747s for recycling. We were nervously watched, runway fine. And then, of course, during G7, we had tons of wide-body aircraft here from the President of the United States. And again, runway was fine.
Yeah.
So one of our big operational challenges, which we was just brought forward in time for G7, is now not an issue at all. So that's great. Good
Fantastic.
to know it's there.
So going forward then, obviously it's a working airport, as we discussed for the G7, 747s coming and going night and day. What modifications need to be done to reach essentially become a working spaceport? Will the runway just carry on being going as usual, and we'll just do the upgrades as you go along for the likes of Virgin Orbit and everyone?
Yeah, well, the beauty that what Cornwall offers to the UK Space Agency or the UK supply chain is the fact that we're pretty light touch for infrastructure, so we're pretty much ready to go. So we're now making our application for our spaceport license, but the reality is we could have made that months ago.
Yeah.
So we are pretty much ready. So we're building the integration facility for the payload integration for Virgin, so that's not ready yet. But that aside, we could pretty much go tomorrow. And that's our sort of like, that's also a bit of a challenge. So, we want to achieve this historic first launch for the UK, but when it's finished, we want stuff here. Like, we don't just want to return to being a passenger airport. We want things for businesses to be able to use, clean room facilities, laboratory space, all that stuff. So the actual the investments we are making are in the infrastructure that's already here. And that was something that was important when we were getting to the stage we are now. Like, every time we investigated this opportunity, if Virgin decided not to sign with us, it all just disappears. We would just left the airport in a better state than it started. So there was no, we weren't building from the ground up hoping someone would come and create a spaceport. It was like, we're making small investments, we're enhancing the environment that's already here, and it's just overlaying on the activity that's already here anyway.
Yeah. One of the questions I had from Joey on the Total Space team, we've already partially answered it, I think, but he was asking what plans are there for storage and integration on the vehicles and valuable satellites that will be here very soon at Spaceport Cornwall.
Yeah, so we're building 3 buildings at the moment. So the integration facility, in the first instance, that was what was in the original business plan, and we actually had a building earmarked to be that. It's essentially just a shed. It's a large shed which you could shove a clean room and a crane in. And actually, interestingly, Virgin Orbit were fine with that. Like, when we started getting excited about, we could put this in, they were like, we'd rather just have a clean room and a crane. But then, of course, that then comes back onto the challenge as far as like, well, great, we're hopefully that's all they need, but what do we have left? So we're also building a space operations system building and a mission operations building where we want to encourage that non-ITAR restricted year-round space ecosystem stuff to be going on. And that's actually why, so D-Orbit were down here yesterday delivering their early ion test satellite. So we are doing a joint project with them through ESA's CSTS program, and that will be run out of that facility. And our hope is that they'd be the first tenants in that building afterwards. So we just want to see, we want launch to enable the ecosystem here rather than everyone just being reliant on it. And once a year, we're desperate for this launch that then doesn't happen again for a year.
Fantastic. What steps are Spaceport Cornwall taking to meet the government's environmental impact? There's been a lot of focus on the likes of LauncherOne and other small startup companies contributing to a ever rising. Everything seems to be in focus with emissions and global warming and everything like that. I'm assuming it's already on the agenda with it being a working airport anyway. But what steps are you taking along that?
Yeah, well, so we want to lead the industry as far as being the most sustainable launch location in the world. And actually, when I say the project was voted through Cornwall Council, it was actually the first project, the first infrastructure project voted through since Cornwall declared a climate emergency. So there was never more of a focus about what does this mean for the environment. So we've done some work with the University of Exeter about what the actual carbon impact is. And the initial report, which we're building on at the moment, but the initial report estimated that it would be equal to about 0.01 to 0.04% of Cornwall's emissions. So that was something that we could immediately then sort of do mitigating activity for. So embedded in all the launch fees that operators pay us will be carbon mitigation activity. We're also doing further work with the University of Exeter. We're about to publish a sustainability action plan. We're going to be completely transparent about what we're doing, what our impact is, because there is a carbon impact, but what we're doing to overcome that, working towards being carbon neutral, which of course is where everywhere the industry is going for the amazing stuff Aurora are doing, more greener propulsion. It makes financial sense as well as environmental sense. Having rockets that can be used once and then never used again. It doesn't make sense for anybody. So and being on the airport side, talking to operators who are about electrification or using hydrogen propulsion. I mean, everything's moving in that direction. The space is leading the way.
Fantastic. If, or should I say, when Virgin Galactic come to the airport potentially in the near future, will you be booking a seat on there?
Well, I would love Virgin Galactic to be here, but actually, even though the conversation started with them, we've got no partnership with Galactic at the moment, which, I mean, and that was something really that the Cornwall Council were a bit nervous about at that point, as far as like human spaceflight, yes, space tourism, no.
Not quite.
So we're trying to navigate that at the moment. I mean, I would love it from, Cornwall's an amazing place for high net worth individuals to come and go. I appreciate it's also problematic as far as what does that benefit the wider population. But I would love to see it. I think it's exciting. But unfortunately at the moment, we've not got a partnership with Galactic.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of potential. You never know what happens in a year or two time. Maybe things might change and they're like, okay, we'll bring it here maybe once or twice a year kind of thing.
Yeah,
maybe.
I think if that ever gets off the ground for us, it will be more about the microgravity research, the scientific payload opportunities, while these people are going up and having these amazing experiences. You know, what is the real science that can go on while that happens? It's almost like these guys pay for the science to happen while they're up there. So that might be the way to approach it.
Yeah. If you like to support what we do, head over to patreon.com/total space, gain access to our exclusive Discord community, chat with special guests on the show, and so much more. And you can follow us over on Twitter and find us over on totalspace.net. That's our website. Enjoy the show. Now, for those wanting to visit and learn more about space and how satellite works, Spaceport Cornwall is definitely worth a visit this summer with their exhibition, The Story of a Satellite. Can you tell us a little bit more about the exhibition, Ross, and the companies on display here today?
Yeah, so the conversation came out really from G7. So Virgin Orbit brought LauncherOne down for G7, and 70-foot rocket does a lot. We had Biden, Boris Johnson, everyone coming through. Everyone wanted their photo taken with LauncherOne, and then that started the conversation. The council realised we can't let this go back. Let's keep this here as long as possible. Virgin were really supportive. So that was like the first anchor tenant, this exhibition that was just genesis of an idea. Yeah. And then thankfully my colleague, our education outreach manager, he suddenly had an exhibition to put on. Yeah. And the education outreach program anyway is already dedicated to engage with every single school in Cornwall. Yeah. So actually, although it wasn't my work, so I can say it was easy. The sector came together really quickly. So we some direct contacts with people like Sky Aurora, who we've worked with for many years, and then also we put a call out through the UK Space Agency to say, look, we're having this exhibition. Who's interested? Yeah. And then, no exaggeration, everyone was banging down our door from OneWeb, so satellites, Astroscale, the orbit. Everybody had stuff that they wanted to put down and showcase what amazing stuff the UK sector's doing.
Yeah, I mean, there's been a few exhibitions dotted around, but nothing like this. Come and see LauncherOne, essentially just sat here. It's absolutely huge in person. It's a lot bigger. It just puts into perspective how big some of the other rockets are that are out there. It's just absolutely incredible. I'm assuming it's not a cardboard mock-up. I'm assuming it's pretty much the actual
thing. It's to scale, so it's 70 foot. And the original idea, this was before G7, was like, okay, we're not going to get the LauncherOne, so let's get a model. Yeah. And then Virgin Orbit built a model out of aerospace parts. So this is ITAR restricted. Yeah. So it came over in 3 shipping containers with a full US security team to guard it 24 hours a day. Yeah. It was assembled by US personnel, which of course adds a little glimmer of, a bit of excitement. It was all like, we watched. It also meant we didn't have to put it together ourselves, which was good. But it's been amazing, the reaction from people that have worked in the space sector all their lives to young kids who have just watched like the recent Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos, Richard Branson sort of live streams. Yeah, they come in and they see it. Yeah. And it's such a powerful thing for us because, Cornwall's not been, Goonhilly's been involved in space forever, but we've not been involved in launch. Yeah. And people have been hearing about it, but perhaps this brings it home. You walk in and you're like, oh, this is a big rocket. So it's been really, really useful for that. And, the politicians are excited about it as well. Local Cornwall councillors are excited.
Good little PR.
It doesn't require much explanation. You just sort of open the door and let people come in and they just leave with their heads exploding.
If you would like to book your visit, head over to spaceportcornwall.com/visit. Again, thanks for inviting us down here today, Ross. It's been absolutely amazing. We're going to take a good look around here later on, and it'll be just absolutely amazing just sitting here with Virgin Orbit's LauncherOne in the background. I've been Ryan from the Space Update. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next week.